Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Sheepdog Mindset. I'm Nick.
I'm David.
So today, I know. Well, first of all, we have a little break in some of our episodes, and I think is just we had a lot of stuff going on, the holidays coming up, and all that. So we want to get kind of a decent break. But I think timing is perfect. Today, I think we want to talk about holiday services, especially the upcoming Christmas service.
Right. Attendance is going to be, usually we have record highs on the Christmas Eve service. I was told by my pastor it even surpasses Easter now. So we've got all these new people coming in, a lot of new faces. It's what we want, but our job is to keep people safe, and it's a busy time for the sheepdogs.
Yeah, it really is, and not only that, some people, especially when it comes to churches, we have a lot of family in town and stuff. So the numbers, the amount of people that are in church, also kind of increase just a little bit. So we want to talk about what do we do as far as protocols for big services or holidays or special events or something like that. First, I guess we'll talk about initial setup. So before anybody even arrives, what does our security teams need to be doing? What do our safety teams need to be doing when we arrive? We should be arriving ahead of time.
Absolutely.
And then what do we do to help prepare for bigger services like that?
I think we do. We don't do anything specifically different. We just do more of what we already do. Yes, I would get there a little earlier than you typically do because you've got to start setting up for large amounts of people. You might have to set up barricades, things like that. Set up parking routines, and start from the outside, work your way in. Have some others work from the inside out. Get your volunteers involved. They're the ones that are out there every day. They're the ones that know the don't look right factor. And I think it's important to emphasize that everybody needs to be okay to say they saw something, even if they think it's a minor thing, because of the attendance going up, the people that don't want us to worship, and we know who they are, they're going to take these opportunities to try to dwindle our services. We see a lot of bomb threats that come out at Christmas, things like that, and we don't just need to cancel church because of a bomb threat. A lot of times it's just a threat. However, we also don't want to ignore it. So yeah, it starts in the beginning, that pre-planning, and get there a little early. You have areas that people, common areas like bathrooms, places like that there's not a lot of traffic in, but that people have access to. And you need to pay special attention to those areas because those are the places where things might get left behind. If somebody was to leave a device, it's going to be in an area that's easy to get to but not highly trafficked.
Right.
So you need to get your guys aware of that and let them know, hey, it's okay to report, even if it's just hey, this door's unlocked, and it's usually not unlocked. That's important.
Yeah, and that's really what we talked in our last episode about. How do we involve our safety team members versus security or our ushers or greeters or people that are a part of our team and our awareness team, or if you will. How do we get them involved with certain things, like just initial sweeps, and then if I see something, I say something. If something looks out of the ordinary, and that's important, like what you're saying, like getting it a little bit early, but getting those who are normally in regular spots that identify certain things that stand out.
Right.
Like certain things that don't look or aren't, that they're not used to. Let's say it that, but that they're not used to seeing a certain situation or something that's arranged a certain way.
Right.
So like if we have people that we start in the parking lots, and we make sure that our parking lot, we have plenty of space, like you said, with barricades, and so we make sure we have our parking set up, because it's still about service to others. We want to have it open and greeting and identifying certain things as far as organizational stuff. But then also on the inside, we talk about prior to those people that get there, our volunteers and people that help us out, how we can just do walkthroughs, walk through certain areas, sanctuaries especially, big places where a large amount of people are going to congregate or are going to be stationary for a period of time. Those are areas we want to kind of do sweeps, what we call sweeps, for items or things that are out of place, right?
And sweeps are not just at the beginning of the service. You can't check that box and say, well, I've already swept that, so therefore it's safe for the night. We tell our guys usually, every half hour, 45 minutes, do another check of the bathrooms. Another thing is we do radio checks. We'll have them get on the radio and check on each other, make sure everybody, because you've got a lot of people in town. There's a lot of people that are hugging and talking and doing all this and that, and you kind of get caught up in the whole Christmas season and forget about your job. So it's important to kind of keep your eye on what you're supposed to be doing. Another thing to think about too is a lot of these churches who are typically doing, 10 a.m., 10:30, and 11 a.m. services, they're not used to doing services in the dark and doing services with candlelight, things like that. Check your batteries, make sure your flashlights are working. Know what lights are supposed to be on, what lights are not supposed to be on. This is something you can kind of pre-game. Talk to your team before, maybe even a couple of days before. Get the team in there at 7 p.m. when it's dark to see what the place looks like, so you can see where potential problems might arise, instead of finding that out when you've got 1,000 people in the room with candles in their hands.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially it's like, we always train for the worst scenario.
Right.
We always train for the active shooter or a bomb or a bomb threat or something like that. We always train for that. But what about, just basic medical issues or falls or
Right.
anything that's mostly, 'cause especially like, during the holidays, we have a lot more elderly people that come
Right.
and visit, people's grandmas, great grandmas, the families all in town. So we want to bring them to our church and show them, what we do and what we worship and how we worship and stuff like that. So we have a lot of not necessarily outsiders, but people that aren't from the area
Right.
or they don't know. So we need to help prepare. Our team needs to be prepared to help them in case they are in need. Whether it be a fall, whether it be a medical emergency of some sort or something, especially whether it be in low light, like you're talking
Right.
about, our flashlights, ways to make sure we have communication with the people controlling the lights, or
Right.
some way of if there is an emergency, we can get on it quick and help save somebody if we need to. The other aspect is also on the other end of that is how do we up our, and I say up, but how do we continue our awareness, and especially now expecting a larger crowd of people,
Right.
right? How do we start identifying people that maybe this don't belong, or maybe
Right.
that maybe stand out a little bit, and then what to do about it?
Yeah, we've talked about that. You had talked before about, what does the average pedophile look like, or the profile of somebody who's going to come shoot up the church. They look like us. They you can't really. Now, there are things that you can pick up on, and we talk about intuition being a gift from God. Trust your intuition, but understand that anybody could be a problem at any time, and it's not just somebody trying to do evil. It's like he just said. It could be a medical problem. It could be diabetic shock. It could be a heart attack. It could be a lost child. There's all kinds of things that we need to just kind of plan for. We need to have this stuff planned for in our day-to-day activities anyway. We just need to be extra vigilant on these days when we have a lot higher attendance, and a lot of people that are what I'd call unknown. We don't know their background. We don't know if they're in distress. We don't know if they're having medical issues. We don't know anything. So we need to be ready for anything to happen. So the way to do that is to just kind of game it, pre-game it, talk about it with your team, sit down, walk through certain things. I'm okay with doing scenarios. I mean, your praise band is probably going to practice, right? Why does the security team not going to practice too? So get together and figure out get some of your kids to come in and help set up situations. They're pretty smart. If you ask your average high school kid, hey, I want you to come up with a test for the security team, you'd be surprised what they'll throw at you.
Yeah, probably some crazy stuff, something they're like, oh, that would never happen. But
Right.
you know what? That's like we said, we talk about it. We've talked to people that have been in incidents, traumatic incidents, and they're like, I never thought it would happen here. So why not be ready in case? There's never anything that's going to be too off the wall. Well, maybe there is, but but not everything.
Don't get
But
me started.
yeah,
can.
hiding on top of cabinets and everything else. But what we want to talk about really is how do we identify, or at least how do we mitigate the threats by identifying the threats, especially when we talk about on holidays. And I know we're saying holidays is special, it's big, and we try to focus on this every day, right? But especially paying attention to, because we know how the enemy thinks. We know how and the enemy would try to get us to falter.
Right.
They are going to pick those times when when we're the most involved, and we're the most sensitive. Christmas, Easter, holidays, anyway, especially any of those that believe in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, that we have to pay attention to those significant times for the devil to show his face, because if anything, he's going to show them in those times.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're talking about in this episode, is because Christmas is near, it's coming up,
Yep.
right? And we want to be prepared. So identifying those that are coming in solo, that are coming in by themselves, or maybe a pair that just is not necessarily. I call it Grinch mode. They're kind of just their face. They're not everybody we know. We come to church and everybody is smiling and is happy. Because we want to be there and it's a place to congregate, a place to commune with others and be in community. So we're a little more upbeat because it makes us feel better.
Right.
And then to pay attention to those that maybe have that look of not so much.
Yeah. That scowl, I mean, there's some people that's just their face. But that is something to look for because, especially at Christmas, somebody who doesn't want to be there is not going to go. If they go there, they're looking for something, and it may be that their family drug them there, or that they're checking that box in their mind. We don't, but we need to understand too that identifying those people, approaching those people, don't go in and make them feel unwelcome necessarily. Make sure that they feel welcome, but don't ignore them because you're afraid to approach. We've seen that time after time, different places. Most of the problems you're going to see, honestly, are not going to be somebody coming in with a machete or with a gun. But almost anybody watching or listening to this podcast probably can identify at least one point in their history where they've had some kind of 911 call, whether it be a medical issue or a missing child, something along those lines. So we need to be able to plan for all of that stuff, and we need to be able to, if we see something that doesn't look right, be able to approach it. I think we talked about that in one of the previous episodes.
Yeah, and especially like approaching it as sooner than later. Because we don't want to wait until they're in the sanctuary, in the congregation, in the middle to try to like, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. We want to do that ahead of time, and that's why we at Sheepdog especially, we're big on approaching from the outside and working our way in. Like outside perimeter security is important; it's imperative.
Right.
We have to have it because if we can stop it from the outside before it gets inside, we mitigate those. We've talked about it in another episode. We mitigate those that could be injured or killed if that incident were to go violent, right? And so if we can do that, so paying attention to the outside perimeters, paying attention to the parking lots, paying attention to those walking in, paying attention to those in the foyers and going through the doors, having those greeters that know how to just read people. You know what I mean? Like just understanding demeanor, facial expressions, body language, all those stuff is imperative to understanding or at least trying to mitigate, maybe there's an issue. And maybe it is, like you said, maybe it's somebody that's just having a bad day. Maybe it's somebody that's just bah humbug, but it's something to pay attention to that maybe that's our time to minister to also. It's not just about making sure, we're on guard and, nobody gets past here, you shall not pass kind of thing. It's more of maybe this is an opportunity to minister to somebody that they're having a bad day. But it's understanding how to see that.
I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. Yeah. We don't plan any of this. I'm going to put Nick on the spot real quick. I think a lot of people learn just by hearing examples of what to do right and what to do wrong. So I'm going to pose a situation to you, and you kind of talk through how you would approach this situation. We've got a door greeter, and he sees a gentleman walking by himself. He's not expressive, really. He's not happy. He's not sad. He's just there. But the door greeter recognizes him as somebody with a felony record. Not only does he see that, when he goes to greet him, he sees what looks to be a gun printing on his right hip. And he walks into the sanctuary by himself.
Yeah, well, how did he get there by himself? Because before he even enters in there, I'm like, "Hey, man, what was your name again?"
Okay.
And then I'm gonna try to and almost engage with him to see, okay, is this dude trying to avoid me? Is he trying to get away from me? Because he knows now. I'm introducing myself. Hey, I'm Nick. I'm with security team here at the church. Man, how you doing? Are you having a good day? You okay? How do you have family here? How have you been? Stuff like, what's your name? Just starting a conversation and then go from there to see how or what they respond with.
Right. So the conversation is an interrogation. I kind of say that jokingly, but for real. And I put Nick on the spot because I've seen him do this 100 times in our trainings, and I know he knows how to do it right. So that the engagement, that initial engagement, does a lot of things. It gets your information, but it also does something huge, which is to let them know we see you and we are proactive enough to come up and talk to you, so therefore we are confident. And a confident person is not somebody that you want to tussle with. So we go in and we approach these folks and we let them know, hey, we're glad to have you here. It's okay if they're doing something that's crazy, if they're walking with a hypodermic needle sticking out of their arm, that we engage that. But you don't walk up, my point to this whole thing was, you don't walk up there and say, hey, man, I heard you're a felon, you got a piece on you. You can't, we're not aggressive with it. You're going to go in and you're going to, in a Christian and friendly way, get in their business. and try to figure out what's going on. And people will, if you just ask them, they'll tell you. A lot of times they're going to tell you whether it's with their voice or with their body language, or they're going to tell you what you need to know.
Yeah, and along those same lines, just because I see it doesn't mean I have to say I see it. And when we're talking
That's true.
about in reference to defense or self-defense, if I see somebody walking in and they're printing a gun, or whether I know them or not, I'm not going to draw a bunch of attention to it because I don't know what their mentality is yet. So the engagement is me understanding or trying to understand what their mentality is at this moment. Are they conversational? Are they friendly? Or are they trying to avoid me? Are they trying to just get past me? Then maybe it draws a little more attention to me, and then maybe I need to take a little step further. Hey man, I haven't seen you here before. You okay? What's your name? All that stuff. Hey, okay, cool. And if they engage, oh, okay, then maybe I might bring up, hey, you LTC holder, we're big on that here, man. We love it, and then see what their response is on that
Right.
part. But I'm doing that before they get into where there's a bunch of people at, because we've learned from some of these, and I say Monday morning quarterback, and I hate that, but I also, if you take it as a training aspect,
Exactly.
you have to take it as a training and a learning experience from things that have happened in order to better prepare yourself. And so that we take these things where we know that some of these active shooter incidents have happened, even here in where we're at, where they come in and they see, people have said they saw him. He looked weird. He had a wig on. He had a jack trench coat in summer, and all this stuff, but they didn't say anything. They didn't approach. They didn't try to engage before they got into the middle of a sanctuary
Right.
full of congregation. And next thing you know, there's an active shooter incident.
Exactly. Yeah, we that exact thing happened with West Freeway Church of Christ here in Fort Worth, with Jack Wilson's shooting. Is that they were not approached and 2 men perished over that incident. And there was a lot of, if you talk to Jack, and I've talked to Jack a few times about that incident, he says, if you've seen my video, good. I'm glad. I like for people to, because those guys died for a reason. If you took that video and learned something from it, so it's almost a way to honor those who gave up their life. To, I don't want to say exploit, but to learn from the mistakes that were made. And it wasn't just the mistakes inside, it was the mistakes, as Nick's brought up about 5 times now, outside. Why was he in the church? Why were we allowing him into the church? You're going to see a lot of different folks at Christmas. We have folks that are going to be wearing suits, like really nice suits that they only bring out twice a year. We're going to have guys that show up in old 80s rat t-shirts with torn up jeans that look like moths went through them. And they're all going to be welcome, and we're not going to prejudge based on that. It's more about the behaviors. It's about, as it's been brought up already, do they show up alone? What is their demeanor? Really, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of people. Christmas. A lot of people are very sad at Christmas. They've lost loved ones at Christmas. I know several close friends of mine are going to be suffering this year at Christmas because it's going to bring up some bad memories. You know a lot of the same ones I do, and they're going to be. But I know those people, and I know what they should look like.
And not only that, on that same aspect, we want people to come. We want people to come to church. We want people to know Jesus. That's the whole goal of this, and that's the whole goal of doing any kind of church security and what we do with Sheepdog Defense Group, and trying to make sure we have a safe environment. We provide a safe environment for people to know Jesus, and especially in a time of need, and a time of hurt, and time of pain. If it's the holidays, and understanding what it is or what the sacrifice was in order for us to have the relationship that we do with Jesus, and understand that our family, that those have lost some, and all that stuff, that's their time to come in peace and not worry about an outside evil that is coming to attack them. That's what our whole goal is to provide that security, to make them and let them be safe in order to do that. But those of us who step and hold that line, we have to be ready and be prepared. And that's a calling. All of our guards, and even the volunteers that we have that help those guards, that is a calling to help provide a safe environment for those to worship Jesus and to understand and know God through Jesus. And it's, to me, I don't know of any other greater calling than to provide that for people, but understanding that some of these people are, they don't do professional jobs like we do to understand and know and see and have experienced some of the things that we have. Again, in the profession that we've done and have done for years and years, in law enforcement, we understand what it takes But all we want to do is provide that understanding to others so that they can actually be better knowledge, have more knowledge to protect. And in Christmas, in Easter, and all these significant holidays, it is more likely that something will happen, that the devil will show up, and we have to really kind of pay attention to those. And that's what this episode's about. It's just trying to put a little more emphasis on the upcoming weekend.
It's a chance to show the backsliders, the ones that are only showing up for 2 services a year, the church is not what they deem that it is. It's to show them what you are. It's to show them who you personally are. Some of the best discipleship I've ever done in my life has been at 2 a.m. in the parking lot of some motel or something. You never know when that opportunity comes up, and the message is going to be to the masses. They're going to tell the story of Jesus' birth, and the backsliders have heard this story every year of their entire life because it's the only service they've ever listened to. The conversation they have with you might be the one that gets them to come back next week, and then again later in January, and gets them to actually turn their life to Christ. So understanding all of that, I don't want to we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit. There is going to be a large attendance, more than likely, barring any kind of event, there's going to be large attendance. So be extra vigilant. Again, to Nick's point that he just brought up, the devil picks his opportunities, and this is a big opportunity. This is a big chance, a lot of target-rich environment if something we want to do something violent. But for the most part, we don't live for that day. We live for the eternity anyway. If you're a believer, your salvation's already secured. We just want to do the best thing that we can while we're here, and this Christmas service is going to be a great opportunity for us to get to a lot of people.
Yeah, provide that security for the others to get where a lot of us want to be, or where we're at already, with understanding and having that relationship. So I think more than anything, from this aspect of the holidays coming and all this stuff, start from the outside. When we work our way in, that's what we've said from the beginning. We want to increase if we can, plus up our numbers if we can, to make it a little bit where we have a little bit bigger team than normal, maybe,
right,
for these groups or for these incidents. Especially if you have, like, I know my church, we do the candlelight vigil and stuff like that. We want to stockpile your securities on those days, especially. I want to put as many as I can, around the church and the inside, the doorways, especially the sanctuary. When the lights go out, making sure we have protocols for if things happen,
right,
communication with lights, flashlights for sure. Also communication with outside in, making sure that we are always, and I know we've said it before, we're going to go over radio communication and stuff in a later episode, but that's a huge deal. And we've seen that even in our training. Not having the communication back and forth with radios or whatever makes it's detrimental sometimes in an incident if we don't have communication. Communication is key.
Last thing I want to say is check your equipment, check your defibrillators, check your radio batteries, make sure if you have repeaters or anything like that everything's up and running, that your surveillance systems are working, your fire extinguishers are charged. This is one of the only services that we bring open flames into with more hair product in women's hair than ever. So they've got extremely flammable hair product in these large hairdos.
This is why we work good together. We think of all aspects of things.
So make sure you're not to give any glory to the fireman, because he eats till he's tired and sleeps till he's hungry. But make sure your fire extinguisher is ready to go, and even have a plan for that. So.
Yeah, 100%. And again, always have those plans. Think of the unthinkable. Table topping, and like David said earlier, even if it's a day before, having a meeting, pre-planning, making sure we're all on the same page, and then going from there. I think that's going to be it for today. We'll work on some more. This was just kind of a Christmas special thing. We're going to try to keep these rolling. Again, the holidays coming and everything else. We're going to try to get back in the swing of things and get these out to you guys. Again, it's about the information.
Yeah, we're trying to get out there and let more people know. Try to get subscriptions out there. If we get some subscribers, we're going to do some special things. We're going to do some on-site things. We've got some mobile mics that we're going to use. Try to bring some special guest speakers, but we kind of want to save that until we have a little bit larger group following us. So let other folks know that are interested in this type of thing that they can come and subscribe and watch us.
Yeah, because again, this is for you guys. This is something we felt that needed to happen, needed to be put out. We really wanted to kind of just get the information out there and just inform as many people as we can, because it's really what it's about, is just trying to keep everybody safe in order to worship Jesus and get, have our relationship built with God, and try to keep going. So again, I'm Nick.
I'm David.
And this is Sheepdog Mindset. You guys remember, keep training, keep fighting, keep working. You guys stay safe. See you.